morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you this morning or this afternoon or evening, wherever you are at ICTforAg, for this session on the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale initiative. I'm going to be kicking us off this morning before we get into a really exciting agenda. Next slide, please, Drew. And I wanted to run over the plan for this morning, some ground rules, and introduce our speakers this morning. We're gonna start by introducing you to the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale initiative, an initiative supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that's really designed to rapidly accelerate the potential applications of advanced crop analytics to benefit smallholder farmers in developing countries. And so I think that's an issue that all of us attending ICTforAg are really interested in, and we hope to learn from you and share some of our experiences today. We're going to give you an overview of the initiative and present to you the results of our analysis of the state of the network of crop analytics actors working to support smallholder farmers, including governments and the private sector, research organizations, and civil society, and talk about how as a community we can move forward to make progress faster. We're really excited to hopefully inspire some ideas by having some of our innovation partners present the exciting work they're doing under the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale initiative. And then we're really excited to talk with you about where we'd like to go next as a partnership and initiative, and wrap up. Next slide, please, Drew. Next slide, Drew.
Hasn't advanced.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So with that in mind, our objectives for the session are really to expand awareness of the work that partners in the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale initiative have been doing. Particularly, we're really hoping to use this as an opportunity to expand the base of potential partners contributing data, testing different use cases, developing analytics within this network. And you'll see when we present the network analysis that we've conducted that there's lots of opportunity for doing that. And then we really want to hear from you about where you think further effort in innovation and partnerships might help us focus on different use cases in the future. Where are the biggest use case needs to help accelerate the benefits of advanced crop analytics for smallholder farmers? It's a virtual meeting today, so some quick housekeeping points. Please, during the session, keep yourself on mute with your cameras off until we get into the breakout rooms. We're going to have 3 different breakout rooms later in the session. We'd love to see everybody's faces in those breakout rooms, so please feel free to turn your cameras on and engage there. We have a question and answer and chat function in the platform. We'll be trying to answer questions as we go. We'll get to as many as we can, and then if there are questions that are critical that we can't get to, we can follow up afterwards. And we're gonna move pretty quickly. There's a lot that we've packed into this session, frankly, because we're really excited about the work and want to share a lot. So if you are concerned about the slides, you'll be able to find the slides, the recording, and the Q&A on the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale website. That's cropanalytics.net. You can go there and check it out. Of course, during the session, there's lots of really great information up there. So today we've got a number of colleagues who are going to share their experiences with us. Again, my name is Richard Choleton. I'm the Director of Agriculture and Economic Growth at Tetra Tech, and lead with my colleagues here the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale initiative. Stuart Collis, Senior Program Officer leading the Gates Foundation's work on digital agriculture, is joining us. Drew Whedon, who's an associate in the Agriculture and Economic Growth team at Tetra Tech, and co-leading this initiative with me, will also be here. Jenna White is joining us today. Jenna is a consultant specializing in sustainable and ethical supply chains, and has been supporting this initiative from the beginning, really helping us think through and analyze the state of the crop analytics community for smallholders, and helping us think through how to really catalyze partnerships and strengthen that network. Great to have you with us, Jenna. And then we have three of our innovation partners with us who are going to present their really exciting work. We have Dr. Molly Brown. Molly is the Chief Science Officer at 6th Grain, a crop analytics startup doing some really innovative work. We have Dr. Lyndon Estes, an Associate Professor at Clark University, who has been doing amazing work in the applications of machine learning and artificial intelligence to identify crop type and field boundaries, working with organizations including Farmerline in Ghana, and we'll hear about that work. And then Dr. Jawo Ku, a Senior Research Fellow at the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI, who's I think known to many of you and has been a leader in trying to get big data applications in crop analytics, and has done some really exciting work with us. So those are our speakers today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So that's all of the preliminaries done. We're going to talk a little bit briefly about the Enabling Crop Analytics at Scale initiative to kind of give everyone a sense of what it is. And I'm going to pass over in just one second to Stuart from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who's going to tell us where this initiative came from. But while you're listening to this and thinking, I would sort of ask everybody to think about how you might benefit from the initiative or contribute to it in the future as we build out the partnerships and collaboration and try to really improve access to field level data for smallholder crop analytics applications. So thanks for humoring me through this introduction, and I will pass it over to you, Stuart, to tell us more about enabling crop analytics at scale. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Richard. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening to everybody. As Richard said, my name's Stuart Collis. I'm Senior Program Officer at the Gates Foundation, working on our digital farmer services portfolio. And first, I'd like to thank the organizers, USAID, Feed the Future, and the sponsors for the conference, continuing to shine a light on digital agriculture in low and middle income countries, and these critical themes that they've chosen to focus on: locally led development, inclusion, data sovereignty, and climate impacts on the poor. At the Gates Foundation, we believe all lives have equal value, and how we execute on this vision in rural communities is by investing in agricultural transformation, supporting small-scale producers in their transition from subsistence agriculture to diverse, equitable income generation. And how we measure progress towards these goals is by tracking productivity, incomes, household nutrition, women's empowerment, and like many, we have an increasing emphasis on climate adaptation. As part of this strategy, we believe digital can be an accelerator of agricultural transformation to help improve the lives of millions of small-scale producers around the world. And this is why we invest in projects like this one, because we see the enormous potential of digital and data-driven innovations to benefit the poor. However, successes in this space are quite elusive. Technology transfer and implementation is not always simple or easy. So back in 2019, my colleagues and I at the foundation, with some partners at McKinsey, began thinking through the reasons why there wasn't widespread adoption of satellite products for agricultural analytics in low and middle income countries. Certainly the cost of imagery was a challenge, and there is the problem of technical capacity. However, we felt those were improving with time, with more cost-effective satellite products and improving training on crop analytics and predictive analytics. The one area we heard from partners as a systemic problem was the cost, availability, and accessibility of trusted, high-quality ground truth and training data. This data is the fuel that really drives predictive analytics, and it always seems that everyone needs more training data. And as we develop more machine learning and artificial intelligence solutions, even if we consider these new sparse data models, we will still need more data that represents in an unbiased way the geographies and the people we care about. So while some organizations do invest in collecting such data, typically in the form of crop cuts, in the case of crop production analytics, they too often just don't have the incentive nor the means to share that data easily. So it might exist, but it's just not accessible or applicable. So that was the reason we launched this project, enabling crop analytics at scale with the Tetra Tech team to investigate how to solve these challenges, specifically for crop production analytics, from two perspectives. The first is how to lower the cost and increase options for collecting ground truth and training data through technology innovations, and you'll hear about some of that work today. And the second area is how do we increase access and incentivize sharing of ground truth and training data that various organizations are collecting in different ways. So we think that solving for these two challenges will help improve the quality and quantity of crop analytics in LMICs, low middle income countries, and will ultimately benefit our small scale beneficiaries in a myriad of ways. So today the team will cover the specifics of the work, some of the learning so far, and the showcase that Richard talked about of some examples. And just to point out that this is the first phase in a phased approach to investing in this space that we're taking. So we hope you'll benefit from the learning so far and consider how your organization could participate going forward. Thank you, and I think over to Drew.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Stuart. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we got here. Certainly, Stuart touched on this, so we'll move through these slides pretty quickly. But we know about the potential for advanced analytics in smallholder environments, and they can really provide a lot of foundational insights. On this slide, you'll see 4 categories of these insights, and the first 3 are really the focal areas for the ECAAS initiative. So it's understanding and being able to better estimate cropped area using remote sensing technologies. As a part of that, as a critical component of that, understanding exactly where field boundaries are, what they look like, the exact shapes and polygons, and then using kind of both of those to try to get at the elusive and difficult component of yield forecasting and predictive kind of yield management. But as Stuart mentioned, it's difficult, especially in smallholder environments, to get the data that's required to train the models, to improve the models, to make them work in extremely heterogeneous farming systems. And in particular, we know that there's a lot of grower surveys, crop cuts, there's a lot of traditional data management and data collection mechanisms don't always have the proper geotagging or time dating or formatting, frankly, that makes them really usable and applicable in advanced analytic algorithms and models. And it's, in part because we know that people are collecting this data for a lot of different reasons. Not all of them are doing this in order to inform a model. And therefore, that's one of the real challenges here, in addition to just the cost of collecting high quality training data. And so we're really looking at the partnerships within the value chain between different organizations that might already be collecting data or considering doing so, and how do we incentivize the sharing of what they're doing and improving interoperability between these different sort of data sets in order to ultimately improve the scaling of the digital applications and the services themselves. And so that's what we're really trying to do here as ECAAS, is to catalyze that scaling of the applications for smallholders and the data sets that they rely upon. And so We're doing this driven by a few specific use cases. These technologies can be used for a huge amount of things. We've drilled down a little bit. I'll talk about that in a second. But before I do that, I just want to spend a minute on this graphic. This is also on our website that Richard mentioned, cropanalytics.net. But we tried to sort of visualize what does this data chain look like. And so I think that the participants on this call, I suspect that a large percentage of the organizations are sort of on the bottom half of this graphic, if you will, where you're either doing the data collection on the left side of the graphic, or on the right side, you are using the information and insights and analytics to improve your farming practices, or improve services to farmers, or even at a higher level, maybe deal with food security monitoring and response. But we also, as an organization, work with a lot of groups that are in the top half of the graphic, basically those that are storing this data, the repositories such as the Radiant Earth ML Hub, and those that are processing the data, turning it into an application that's then useful kind of downstream. So I'd encourage you to think about where your organization sits within this graphic. Certainly some organizations are spread out across multiple components, but we try to take a holistic view as a program. And so Stuart touched on this earlier, but one of the huge kind of work streams that we're focused on is just to understand, what does this network of existing organizations that are working in this space, what does it look like? What are the dynamics that sort of drive it? And so we started out conducting a landscaping assessment, which Jenna will talk about in some detail in a few minutes. We have a stakeholder database on our website, and would strongly encourage all of you to check it out and add your organizations, please. And we'll talk about this in a bit more detail as well, but one of the main ideas here is that this is a community resource. Anybody can access this database. And so if you are working in farm extension, for example, as your use case in Kenya, you can go in and look at, here are the analytic providers that are providing these types of services in this market based on how they've kind of identified themselves in our database. So creating those linkages, improving the cohesiveness of the network, that's a big kind of component of what we're doing. I mentioned earlier that we've grounded the approach within a few kind of use case categories. So we also conducted an analysis, and you can see here the three that we have settled on. They're pretty broad. There's a lot of room within these, but starting sort of at the farm level, how do you improve the digital applications, farm management, advisory services, things like that. Moving up a little bit to the service providers that are working with smallholder farmers, specifically around improving access to financial tools, both insurance and also customized lending products. And how can you use remote sensing information and analytics to improve those products? And then finally, looking at sort of the regional high level view, how do we use these technologies to improve food security monitoring and related policy decision support functions? So we are right in the middle of basically kind of formalizing this network of actors that we've been working with, and identifying what the long-term data sharing and business model will look like. This has been a very collaborative process that will continue. The other major track of the work, and Stuart alluded to this, is really pushing the science and pushing the practice among this group of stakeholders that are working in this space. And we do this through the use of our AgData innovation facility. We have been investing in different teams and organizations for the last couple of years. Here's an illustrative list of the types of projects they're working on. You're going to hear about from 3 of these teams in just a minute. And you can also see more about all of this work, again, on our website. We have a write-up, and we also have the lessons learned and key findings that are emerging from each of these teams. So again, thinking of this research and this innovation as a community good, basically, that we're helping to develop and catalyze the spread of. I would also just highlight quickly that we have actually created, in partnership with ODK, the Open Data Toolkit, and also with the Radiant Earth Foundation, a standardized data capture form for different types of crops, including tree crops, that essentially captures agricultural information in a way that is already machine learning ready. So it is formatted in the proper way. It captures that geotagging that I mentioned earlier, the elements that make it easy for analytic providers to then turn that into a useful product are all embedded in how that form is set up. We also have a help desk that will kind of, assist you in the use of the form. So again, please check that out. That's also on our website. We'd love to get more organizations using that and providing feedback on it. So with that, I am going to hand it over to our colleague Jenna, who's going to focus a little bit on, as I said, the landscape assessment that we did and the key findings from that. Jenna, please.
Great, thanks, Drew. So we'll dive in and talk about this landscape assessment, or what we're calling the SLA that Drew mentioned. And the objectives are to understand what exists today. So who's out there? What are they working on in terms of the technology? Where are they in the data chain? But equally as important, how are people working? What does collaboration look like? So we went through and we identified, categorized, and mapped the ecosystem. And as Richard mentioned, that was intentionally inclusive of public, private, and civil society organizations working in the crop analytics space. And we've created a picture of what that network looks like today, and we'll get to that in a couple of slides. But our goal is to understand what exists today and what's the best role for ECAAS, given the state of the network. And so how we did this was a combination of a literature review and a desk review, so poking around a lot of websites and probably including a lot of folks on this call. A lot of one-on-one interviews and creating the stakeholder database that we've been discussing. And the other part of that is we sent out an online survey to the folks that we had reached out to. So again, another call for adding yourself to the database. In addition to the benefits that Drew has already enumerated, another benefit is that we will send you out the survey if you add yourself to the database, and that ensures that you're included in the network. And we'll get to some of those benefits in a moment. So if we can go to the next slide. So some of the core findings from this initial landscape assessment is really focusing on what are the priority use cases and what does that mean in terms of the data that's needed, and what does that tell us about data capture? So in the graphic below, you can see the preference of use cases based on those who are included in our SLA. So again, it's not the entire network, but it's a pretty good chunk. And what we're seeing is the top use case is a focus on extension and production management. Sorry, can I just ask for anyone who's joined to perhaps put yourself on mute? I'm getting an echo. I don't know if others are as well. Thanks, everyone. So again, 38% of organizations mentioned this farm extension and production management is the most common use case. And then you can see the others flowing down from there. But what this really tells us is that we have a variety of data needs. So of course, the ground truth data training needs are going to vary across these use cases. And so what we're trying to gauge is, where is the network in terms of preferences? What are people most interested in? And again, another plug for adding yourself to the database so that your preferences can be captured when we repeat the surveying process. So another piece of information that we're capturing is, what data points are people currently capturing, and what roles are people fulfilling within the data chain? So again, as Drew mentioned, a lot of folks are focused on that, data capture and analytic services. The most common data sources that we heard that people are using is satellite imagery and mobile phones. And you can see in the graphic below the most common parameters, which include crop type, field boundary, and yield. And again, we'd like to repeat this to make sure that we're capturing that. But again, we'll share these slides so you can look at these graphs in more detail. So this slide, what we're showing you is the current network structure, and it looks like a giant hairball, and that's very representative of what it is. There's a lot of people in this space, which is fantastic, but what we're interested in is, how are people collaborating? And what we do not see currently is distinct communities where there are clear information flows. And so that's really where ECAAS can step in, is to serve as a convener and a hub to ensure that people are connected, information is flowing, and that people are working together in an organized way. So we're not seeing that coordination emerge organically, and that's what we are particularly interested in as we think about the structure of the network. And so what you see here in terms of all of the little dots, those are all organizations by organization type. And again, if you add yourself to the database link that we've shared in the chat, you will get a link to this survey and you will be added to the map, and it will give us a better sense of where collaboration is happening and how ECAAS can help make that collaboration more effective. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Drew.
Thank you so much, Jenna. So now we're going to move into something that I've certainly been looking forward to, which is the Innovation Showcase. These are going to be pretty condensed sort of lightning pitches, basically, from our innovation teams. They could spend a lot more time than this, certainly, speaking about the innovative work that they're doing. But we're going to ask each of them to stick to about 3 minutes and just give a really quick overview of the basics of the research. We would encourage you to, if you want to follow up, if you're looking for more information, you can contact us, you can contact the speakers themselves and their teams, but this is just to give kind of an overview. Please do put specific questions you have in the Q&A, and if we have a little bit of time at the end of this section, we will try to address maybe a couple of those live, but even if we don't get to them live, we will get them out in writing and we'll get them up on the website. So with that, I am going to first hand it over to Dr. Lyndon Estes at Clark University. Lyndon.
Thank you, Drew. So I'm presenting this work today on behalf of my colleagues at Farmerline, who are the lead organization on this project, which focuses on 2 areas in Ghana and 1 in northern Tanzania. Next slide, please. So our project, which is now in its 2nd phase, seeks to generate 2 key openly available data sets, one of which is ground truth data on crop types collected using Farmerline's innovative merge data platform, as well as with drones. And the other is complete maps of crop types created using satellite imagery and advanced machine learning trained with those ground truth data. So the project has 2 innovative features. The first is a sort of a novel use of both field collected and drone data to create a rigorous, efficient set of ground truth data. The second is the use of new sources of satellite imagery and the latest machine learning techniques to develop agricultural maps. So the project results benefit smallholders in a number of ways. First, the maps provide region-specific information on what crops are being grown and in which fields, which is used to provide farmers tailored training and advice throughout the season. For example, what seed types should farmers buy and how much fertilizer should they apply? Secondly, the data provide better intelligence for agribusinesses and other stakeholders that serve smallholder farmers. Next slide, please. So just a little more detail on the methods and results. So we've collected ground truth data over 7 regions across northern and central Ghana, with Farmerline's agents visiting nearly 4,000 farmers on the ground and using their innovative merge data platform to precisely map the boundaries of more than 5,000 fields containing maize and several other key crops. We've also captured 192 drone images over the same regions. So to create maps, we use several machine learning techniques, including 2 deep learning approaches, which we apply to PlanetScope and Sentinel satellite imagery to create 2 sets of maps. The first are maps of individual field boundaries, and the second are maps of crop types growing in those fields. The models we use are designed to be easier to update so that we can use them to map new areas in subsequent seasons. So our ground truth data also allows us to rigorously assess how accurate those maps are. So both the ground truth data and the maps are all made public, hosted on a variety of platforms where other people can access them, such as AWS, the S3 platform, as well as Radiant ML Hub. Next slide, please. So here's just a look at some of the outputs. The map at the top left shows the merge data interface with the location of fields collected in northern Ghana, with an example of a boundary around a maize field shown next to it, as well as an image that is captured on the ground by Farmerline's agents. The map at the lower left shows all the locations where drone imagery has been collected in both regions of Ghana, with an example of one of those images next to it, where you can see the detail of a maize crop growing in there. The map at the top right shows the field boundary maps generated using deep learning for the years 2020 and 2021 in central Ghana. And in the lower right is the resulting maps of those crop types. So with that, thank you, and I'll turn it back over.
Excellent. Thank you, Lyndon. hopefully we're getting some questions in chat. As I said, we'll take a look at what those look like after the lightning presentations are finished. So next up, we have Jiawoo Ku from IFPRI. Jiawoo, please.
Okay, hi. Yeah, thanks. So I'm representing our team member from my institution, IFPRI, and also University of Twente, ITC, and also ECAAS based in India. Next slide, please. So as we just heard, the timely crop analytics can provide critical insight for food security decision makers, but crop analytics is also highly challenging to scale, largely constrained by the availability of ground truthing data. Like for example, in India, an official guideline for conducting crop cut experiment, which is gold standard of ground truthing data collection method in the cropping field, has 17 steps, and it takes about 2 hours of the team of about 5 people to complete just one plot. Because of this inherent challenge, there is really never enough ground truthing data in this crop analytics. So back in 2019, we had an idea that this problem really needs to be addressed at both scales. With the support of ECAAS initiative, we developed a pilot in Odisha, India. So our first work stream was top-down, investigating how we can improve the sampling frames such that we can improve the representativeness of field data over space and time, really informing where to collect, how many samples to collect, and how frequently we should collect such data. And also at the bottom, from the ground up, at the field level, we thought we really needed another way to expedite this process of collecting yield data. So we piloted a new computer vision application to rapidly collect crop yield data using just smartphone camera. Next slide, please. So the first map on the left-hand side shows actually, that there was an animation here, but showing the intermediate output of the vegetation index mapping from the dynamic sampling frame analysis we conducted for rice field in eastern Odisha. So what this map is showing is that, and over time, even if you have good ideas of where rice is grown, depending on seasonal weather pattern, there is always changing geography of the rice performances, which means if you have only static sampling frame, you often get misled by the analysis result. The second animation on the left, you see the 3D model of, in this case, sorghum panicle, showing, capturing the data captured from the smartphone camera, which is used to construct 3D model, and that can be rapidly converted into yield estimation. So this process is a lot faster, as you can imagine, than crop cut experiment. So combining those two work streams, so we thought we developed really good innovative processes, workflow to expedite the crop analytic process. And there is a link to also in the crop analytics website, you can read about our report, and there's a source code, kind of GitHub repository. You can take a look at our software we developed. And also there is a webinar we presented a lot more in detail technical depth a few weeks ago that you can watch on the YouTube. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe. And sorry that the top animation didn't work there. Okay, finally, I will hand it over to Dr. Molly Brown from 6th grade. Molly.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, yes, okay, next slide, please. So what we're going to be doing with what we've done here is that we have developed a private sector platform where we've engaged with companies such as Syngenta and BASF and other organizations within Africa to share the data they've already collected in order to understand the broader uses of these information. We've also looked at ways of gathering new data in order to solve the problem of last mile transparency. So many organizations who are working in the agriculture space across Africa really have no insight as to who's using their products, who's buying their hybrid seeds and where they end up because of the way the African or the, the low income agriculture sector functions. That the goods pass through so many hands, it's very hard for the organizations creating these products to understand whether or not they meet the need. So we've developed a number of free data gathering tools which help support innovative data collection and improved information. So next slide, please. So we have this tool called FieldFocus Light, which is available on the Play Store for anybody who would like to look at it. And what it does is it puts into the hands of anyone who has a cell phone, a smartphone, Android-based smartphone, to digitize their own field and provide the information and to use the tool to record what crop type, their yield, what products they're using. And because it doesn't have any geographic or field size limitations, anyone can use it. We did an experiment on the phase 1 of this project where we publicized this project or this tool via Facebook groups in Kenya. And we found we were able to get many hundreds of people to download the tool, digitize their own fields because they wanted to know how large their fields were. It was quite, the size of plots is often unknown even by the people who are cultivating them. So next slide. And then what we've done is integrated this information into a data sharing platform. I will put the URL in the chat when I am done presenting. It's basically dsp.sixgrain.com. And what we've done here is allowed for anybody to upload data and to share it in a graphical interface that engages with the user, allows everyone to know who provided the information and who shared in order to create a crowdsourced platform for everyone working in any place around the world to share the data that they have. So we are really hoping now, after we have gathered some data, to demonstrate the utility of having digital outline, planting date, crop type, and production information across large areas in order to result in high quality information for the agriculture system. And that is all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Molly. And well done to all of the presenters staying on time. We do actually have a minute here. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second and we'll take a look and see if we have any questions that are specific to the presenters that we want to try to cover now, or otherwise we can move on to the next segment of the presentation. This is a great question, and I think relevant to a lot of people here. Molly, do you see the question that just came in from Alana McGinty? What are the uses of the data for smallholders after they submit their data and it goes into the platform? I think that's a great question and cuts across a lot of what we're trying to do here. Oh, Molly, you're muted.
Okay, so the answer is that particularly the FieldFocus Light, it was designed as a record-keeping tool. We did a survey of the digital environment in Kenya, which is a particularly well-advanced mobile agriculture tool environment. And we found that there was very few tools that were designed for the smallholder, the commercial farmer growing tomatoes for the urban markets, right? So we developed a tool which is focused on engaging with the commercial farmer, no matter how big their plot, and to help them keep records, understand how much their inputs cost, whether or not, when they have to do what. If they have 10 fields spread about large areas, how can they plan their day, which ones should go to first, in recognition of how challenging it is to lease fields and grow commercial products. So that was really our objective. And I think that we have a lot more to do in honing the tool to really engage with that audience. But we really are hoping to, through audiences like this, encourage more people to download and use that tool so we can improve it.
Thanks, Molly. And maybe just to add, in terms of the platform itself, I think that also just gives service providers, researchers, a variety, even certain private sector organizations who might be interested in getting that kind of geo-stamped, time-stamped field data that could be used to improve or test or validate models, and having it kind of all in one graphical interface and having it all in
That's
one
right.
place, I think is really a huge value add for people who are trying to do that.
And have it easily seen, we've also designed it, the DSP, so that you can say, I only want tomato fields, I don't care where they are, or only maize, or I'm only interested in Malawi, don't give me any data for Senegal, right? So, and that allows researchers and others to get just the data they need and download it. I put the link in, feel free to play with it and send me a note if you are interested in hearing more about it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Molly, and the rest of the presenters. We're now going to move on to the next session here. And please do, as I said, please continue to put questions you have for the research teams or for anyone else in the chat, and we will try to get to those. So next up, we're going to move into, we're going to start out with a couple of polls. So we're using Mentimeter, if you're familiar with it. And we're going to use this to sort of help to frame the deeper discussion that we're going to go into within our breakout rooms here shortly. So I'm going to ask my colleague, Caroline, to share her screen in just a second. But please, as we're switching screen shares here, please navigate to menti.com, enter this code 72498757. And the first of these two questions should pop up for you. You can also use that QR code if you like. And I would encourage you to think about, so, we're starting broad and then becoming more narrow with our questions. So on this first one, we just want to get a sense of what is it, what are the specific applications and some of the services, what innovations are you seeing that are really exciting? Or even if it's a kind of an old technology or an old model, but maybe someone's going about it a slightly different way. There's a new partnership structure that they're using. What's jumping out at you as something that's innovative in this specific space? And this can be, I know we have a broad audience here, so this could be at the farm level. This could be at the service provider level, if you're a bank or an input supplier. This could even be at the national or regional level if you're doing food security or other kind of use cases. So please navigate to this Menti page, and we'd love to hear from you. Caroline's going to pop up the page so that we can kind of see the word cloud get populated in real time. So Caroline, if you could please share when you're ready. Excellent. All right, we're already getting some responses. And for those who maybe, I think Menti is pretty well used, but if you haven't used it before, you'll see that if we get multiple responses, people typing the same response multiple times, it'll increase in size within the word cloud. All right, we're seeing a great variety of responses coming in here across different types of use cases. Machine learning starting to come out ahead in terms of response rate. We're going to leave this up for a couple more minutes. Again, if you haven't done so already, please go to menti.com, use the code. You can see at the top of the screen there, 72498757. Micro weather forecasts, I like that. That's a great one. Carbon credits, okay. And maybe one more just piece of context here. As I said, we're gonna, as we split into our breakout rooms, we're actually gonna use these word clouds to frame the first couple of deep dive discussions that we have within the breakouts. So, and we'll share the word clouds as well. Merge data, okay, Farmerline's platform is coming out here. That's great to see. Let's give this one more minute. tenure for female farmers. It's a great one. Okay. This is good. This will definitely be a great foundation, I think, to dive into in the breakout rooms. Okay, thank you very much for your responses on that one. Caroline, when you're ready, why don't we advance to the second question, please, the second Menti poll. Excellent, thank you. So on this one, we'd like you to think about what are the attributes, the characteristics about these digital applications and services that you like, that you're most interested in. What makes these trustworthy, valuable? What makes you want to go back and keep using them and to really feel confident in the information that you're receiving? Or that you're seeing others receive if you're not directly kind of engaging as the end user itself. So try to think of the specific terms, characteristics that you'd be looking for. Again, we'll give this a couple of minutes. Okay, so we're starting to see some emerging leaders, transparency, open sourcing, locally relevant. Secure, certainly real time, okay. The data has a purpose, that's a great one. That would be a very good one to unpack during our breakouts. Okay, we'll leave this up for 30 more seconds. Accuracy, okay, got some similar terms. All right, very good. I think this is looking great. Thank you everyone for your thoughts and your participation on that. So at this point then, we're going to move into 3 breakout rooms to discuss these questions and your responses to them, and also a couple other ideas. So these are going to be the 3 questions that each of these discussions, breakout discussions, are framed around. We're going to look at those results from the 2 Menti polls. We're going to dig into those a little bit, ask a little bit of the why, what hopefully some people will want to volunteer and be willing to give a little bit more background as to why they answered how they did for questions 1 and 2. And then we want to really pull it back to the foundational aspect of ECAAS here, which is around, the data contribution itself, and how, if you're directly using these applications and services, how do you view your role in this, in this process? What makes you want to use these or not want to use them based on that kind of data contribution role? What are the pieces that you'd really love to see, maybe that you're not seeing now from some of these services? So we're going to dig into these in groups. We are going to facilitate that process through the use of Jamboard. And I believe at this point, and I'm sorry, there are going to be 3 breakout rooms randomly assigned. One will be facilitated by me. Caroline will moderate the second room, and Jenna, who you heard from earlier, will moderate the third room. Anything else to add here? I think otherwise we can move into our breakouts. All right, so if I could ask somebody from the team to split us, thank you. All right, welcome back. Thank you very much. I hope everyone had a productive breakout room session. They never last long enough. Let's just do a super lightning round, recognizing the time here. I think I'll just start with my group. I did want to have someone else do it, but we need to be quick. So I'm just going to say maybe one bullet per kind of question or column, and I'll encourage the other groups to follow up with that. So first one, things we're excited about, digging into those a little bit further. This idea of empowering for decision support functions on farm, empowering the farmer to make their own decisions, providing actionable advice and specific advice that's localized, certainly, but opening up the space and making sure that things are designed in such a way that ultimately you're not just telling someone, hey, plant maize, or whatever it may be, in kind of a directive way. In terms of attributes, the term that came up in our group, I guess what not to do as opposed to what to do is don't use lazy solutions, which is to say using like a global solution that might work in North America and trying to apply that to a smallholder maize farmer in Kenya. Not only is it not going to work, but it's going to make them immediately shut you off, right? And say, well, that's not going to work here. It doesn't matter. And so you've automatically kind of disengaged right from the beginning. And so making sure that things are hyper localized whenever possible. And then finally, in terms of the perception of the data collection and sharing, I think that transparency around the data chain itself, what happens to the data after it's provided, being very clear and speaking in plain language and in local language about what that is, and getting that clear information loop and maintaining that information loop is critical. So that's the lightning round feedback from our side. We'll post all of our breakout stick-it notes, I think, on our website as well. So Caroline, maybe over to you for your group. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. We had a great discussion. Some things that came out of our first questions about what we're excited about is just the more affordability of sensors and wireless monitoring, and the advances in machine learning to provide more real-time analytic support. Our priorities and the attributes that we prioritized, and some discussion we had around, was really how do we build trust and transparency. So principles around building apps that we have a long-term investment for, not things that are just going to be around for a couple of years, but really doing the groundwork to make them lasting. And then the last column of how do we perceive our roles, and we also came up with additional challenges. Oh, that's beautiful. Was leveraging how do we collectively build standards with the community and not for the community. So how do we really bring in all voices to build standards and interoperability in the data, and then making data cleaning and governing easier.
Awesome, thank you, Caroline. And then before I hand it over to Jenna to wrap up with her group, I'm just going to say that we work with Tanya from FieldFocus Light, who is fantastic at what she does. I don't know, Tanya, do you want to really quickly just explain what this is, and then we'll hand it over to Jenna?
Yep, this is a live capture of what we heard in the breakout groups. So we'll be sharing this on the website, and I'm drawing it all in real time. So yeah.
Never ceases to amaze me how impressive that is. You can do that in real time. With that, over to you, Jenna. Thanks.
Yeah, so a lot of our discussion is captured exactly here. So we talked a lot about trust and transparency, but also motivation. And that was an interesting end to our conversation, motivation for farmers, and making the case of why should you contribute this data for buyers? Why should you contribute this data? What is the benefit to you? And part of that motivation and trust, another consideration that came up was a lot of these apps are in an early stage or a pilot mode, and many of them have not reached a mature stage. And if we're asking people to invest in new technologies or processes, that there's a sense of not really knowing what's established and what's worth investing in from various actors across the chain. So thanks to my group for some fantastic conversations.
Awesome. Thanks to everyone for your contributions there, and to Tanya for capturing this in this beautiful graphic, which, as we said, we'll have on our website along with the other materials. Tanya, anything else on this before I kind of finish with the last couple of slides?
No, this is all good. Really amazing capture from everyone. We also have a slide from the presentations that we heard, the initial opening discussion, so we'll share that as well.
Thank you, and sorry for the quick run through the entire deck there. Two things we wanted to close on. So yet another reminder and plea to please do join. Jump on the website, look at all this awesome material from this conference, which in fairness probably will be a few days before we get it all up there, but we will have it all up there for you to look at. And please do join our stakeholder database. You can see the link that brings you directly to that part of the page. There's another kind of component that we haven't really discussed, which is that we do have 2 advisory groups that really help drive the direction of this project. You can see here a lot of the logos of some of the organizations that are involved in the strategic advisory group and in the technical advisory group. For the technical advisory group, we do have opportunity to add some more organizations. And so if your organization is interested in joining, please drop us a note. You can use that general info email, or you can also, if you want, you can email me directly. I don't mind. So, please do let us know if you're interested. Please go to our website. You can check us out on Twitter at ECAAS AgData, which we try to keep up to date. We're also going to be pretty soon here on the website and via Twitter. You'll see that we're going to be launching a very short series of podcasts to try to dig a little deeper into what we've entitled The Dirt on Data. So keep an eye out for that. And with that, I believe we're at time. So thank you so much, everyone, for your participation, for your insights. We really look forward to continuing engaging with you and working towards the next phase of this really exciting and important work. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.